Hello fellow dragons, and welcome to Astral Dragon Gaming. This is a review for one of probably the most iconic games and one of the most loved games I've ever played. Final Fantasy VII was one of the very first major new generation console games that I ever bought. I actually bought the original Final Fantasy and a PlayStation 1 all for that one game. I did the same for Zelda, I did the same for Metroid Prime. I've done a lot for very specific games in my lifetime, owning consoles for a specific game and then expanding my game library beyond that. And this game being remade, being re-envisioned and changed is, for a better word, mind-blowing. You can't understand the change it is to a person that has played this game backwards and forwards, done all the secrets, done all the little bits and pieces, and then get shown a vision of it being almost as pretty as it was in your mind when you first played it. Like, the emotional attachment that is in so many parts of Final Fantasy. And even though this remake is only in Midgard, it is still so much of what I remember as a kid playing. Well, I wasn't a kid, I was in my 20s, but still, when I was younger and playing this game, it's one of those phenomenal things that you have to really understand how important it is that this game has been released. Now, I was lucky enough, like many Australians and Europeans, to actually get a copy of this game ahead of schedule. And, you gotta give credit to Square for understanding the desire for this game and trying to eliminate the possibility of so many people getting spoiled for this game that, it's phenomenal. Now, I'm going to talk about a lot in this game. For anyone that's played Final Fantasy, it is a fantastic remake. It is got some flaws here and there, but the majority of it is a fantastic piece of work that just oozes personality and makes every minute of playing it a joy and a pleasure. Now, from this point on, it is spoiler territory. I will be talking candidly about all the game and giving you my thoughts on the entirety. The only thing that I will not spoil is the end sequence. The end sequence is an extremely important thing. All the game footage is from the first 4 to 5 hours. There is no other game footage yet that I put out for any other part of this game. I will be doing a full playthrough on Twitch for this game and probably uploading the archive footage of that straight up to YouTube. But other than that, every part of this entire sort of review is all talking about the game and the comparisons that this game has. So, let's start off at the very beginning, at the Reactor 1 bombing. The Reactor 1 bombing and the demo that came out was a fantastic look at what the potential of Final Fantasy Remake is all about. And the remake is just a fantastic thing. The best examples of showing how much different this is from the original game. The first offbeat where you get off the train. Like, not even talking about the intro and the building of the entire town and everything, making people see the entirety. Let's talk about just jumping off the train as Cloud and getting into your first fight by just literally moving the stick forward and troops coming out, and Brett just runs away and leaves it to you. And literally in 3 seconds you're given a tiny little tutorial that's quick, simple, jump off and go straight into it. Now, before we go on from this point on, I want to talk about the difficulty level. The first two, which is classic and store and easy mode, are truly laughable in the difficulty level. Like, this is a level that's set for almost kid level design. It's not overly great, and I think that's a horrible thing that's been done. But, you know, it's a choice they made, and it's acceptable because there is the normal mode, which is challenging enough and will make you fail here and there. That makes the game really enjoyable. And when you get to the very end of the game and finish it, you have the option to come back through selecting different chapters and trying it in a much hardcore mode, which becomes phenomenally harder. Like, the boss battle in Reactor 1 becomes just unbelievably more powerful unless you have the right materials placed into your weapons. And also, you can't use any items in hardcore mode, which is just a real game changer. And the Shinra boxes that are around that you have to hit. But anyway, continuing on from that point. So you go to the Reactor 1, you finish off the boss there, you break out of the Reactor 1 after it gets absolutely trashed by Shinra, and you're in Sector 8, and you're going through Sector 8, and it is a war zone. It's a disaster zone. It is where everyone is in, and you feel bad. And I mean, not just casually bad, you feel bad about what has happened here. And the fact that they can capture the emotion structure so simply by changing that whole thing. Because when you finished the reactor in the original game, you basically just ran out. It's like, oh yeah, go back to the base. And you just wander around. You meet up with Aerith and get on the train after a little biffo, and that's it. But no, as you go through this and you're fighting more and more troops, you're given this concept of, oh, I've done something horrendously wrong here. This is the thing that all terrorists have to see, that no matter how good your personal sort of belief of how important your cause is, the results should never be that bad. And I love the questioning of Jessie as she goes through this entire thing and questions whether she made the bomb wrong or whether she did something wrong that created a massive explosion that caused more trouble. Now, Jessie, Wedge and Biggs are three characters that were very just simple sideline characters. They didn't have any meaning in the original game. They were just there. And, spoiler, because this is what everyone knows, but not everyone that's coming back into the game will know, that Biggs, Wedge and Jessie die in the collapse of Sector 7. But that's the thing. That collapse is so strange to happen. But this part of talking about Jessie, Wedge and Biggs, they're full-fledged characters now. They're people that I literally cried at the fact that they died. I just couldn't get over it, and that was the most extraordinary thing about this sort of changeover. So there are a lot of things that are going through this game, and you are going to encounter those points where you are just tragically broken up by what happens in it. The game is a definite look at. There is no dispute on how beautiful, how gorgeous, how wonderful nearly everything in the game is. And that is only highlighted more by the simple flaws that appear here and there. When you're attacking enemies that are higher up than you, you can get clipped into walls or get stuck in corners, and you're fighting the camera in order to see the scene where to attack someone and whatnot. And also the amount of pop-in that's in this is quite horrific. Like, I don't know whether they tried to keep the frame rate at the proper rate and just accepted the pop-in, or that the pop-in is a flaw that's just part of the overall design of the game. But it's very noticeable in some of the more pristine areas, like when you go to your room when you get to Sector 7, and the doors look like mud. They just look horrible. They just are so low rendered textures. It's like, I'm looking at it and it's like, oh, did we go back to the PS1 design or what? And it's just, ugh. But at the same time, that doesn't change the fact that the entirety of it is just so gorgeous. It's so lived in, so full of. It's clear that the overall design is sort of shown from games like Yakuza, who it's lived in, it's full of people, it's full of interaction, it's full of real life, it's full of things. I love walking into an area and seeing a whole load of enemies, or seeing a boss dude that I know I'm going to have to fight, and I'm just going, alright, what do I need in order to gear up to fight these people? And other bits and pieces. And then, yeah, it's the visual style of all this is so well done and so full on in your face that even the minor imperfections that pop up here and there, and wrestling the camera controls and all the other things, it just oozes personality and makes you want to play the game more. I spent a good 26 hours straight at one point playing this game. And it's a 40-hour game. It's 35 if you're going to cut everything. And it's a 50 to 60-hour game. And this is only the first chapter. This is the first section of the entire game. And I know how big the game is. Anyone else that hasn't played the game, it's a 40-hour game by its normal rights, if you wanted to trash and thrash your way all the way through the game on the original version. But this is 40 hours on one version, and the cinematics and whatnot. The bike battles just feel awesome, and the big mech dude that you fight at the end of getting away from the Shinra Tower is like so much harder than what the original version of it was. The original version was a straight up normal fight, like all the fights in Final Fantasy 7, the original. But in the boss battle, you've got to go from side to side and whatnot. And again, there are just so many tiny little mini games, tiny little quests. Oh, the quests. It was one thing that brought this game into a bigger highlight in my mind, was when you're playing the first 3 hours and you're in Sector 7 and Tifa just says, oh, look, we can go and do side jobs so you can get more rep and become a better mercenary and get more money. And so you go to a mercenary person that does all the hiring out for the mercs, and you just do all these little jobs all over the place. And I love some of the quests. Some of the quests, like one's finding a cat, one's fighting off a certain set of dudes, another one's finding a specific things. It's just so many nuances and everything. All the different sectors have their own sort of quest structures that you can and can't do. There are secret areas in order to find them. There's a kid dressed up as a Moogle that you get special items off, and just, there's just so much of the original flair and joy in this game. Like, especially when you get back to Seventh Heaven, which is Tifa's bar in Sector 7, which is Avalanche's main base, and you're sort of left to your own devices, and you're basically left with only really one option to do, and that is play a game of darts and see how well you can achieve it. And I just was blown away from the game of darts alone. And then on top of that, the collecting of music all through the game, like finding music discs of all these different music tracks, and I was like, it was just unbelievably fantastic. Now, for the original fans of the game, the materia is pretty much the same deal as it was before. The only thing that's changed is the summon materia. Summon materia has become a kind of rarefied gem, ideally, where it's rare to find summon materia, even though one of the characters just straight up hands you a piece of summon materia. It's like, thank you very much, here's a piece of summon materia. And it's just rarefy air, so when you can use it, you can only use it in certain battles and under certain conditions. And it's only after you've staggered the enemy that it starts refilling the gauge for the summon materia. And I think that's a good and a bad design idea for the original sort of concept, because originally summon materia were like the most important things to discover and find in the original remake, in the original Final Fantasy VII, where you would find a summon materia and you go, ooh, I want to see what that does, and then use it and become more powerful with it. And some battles just became an absolute joke with that summon materia. Now the summon materia are kind of almost a lifeline at times in parts of the game, and like on easy difficulty you would barely even warrant the difficulty of it at all, but at the other end of the scale, when you're playing in normal and then moving on to hardcore mode, the summon materia become an almost definite lifeline that sort of saves your ass in the last minute. That brings us around to combat. Combat is a very fluid, strange design here, because it is a much different concept in comparison to the original game. The original game, it was a turn-based combat where basically in the background whoever had what speed and whatnot was designated as having different slots on the movement through, and you had the choice of active or wait battle time sort of meters that built up. Now the battle time meter is, or active time battles or bar, is basically a one-shot sort of slow-mo time to a crawl. Make a decision, and you can flick through all the different characters that are in your party at the time and activate any amount of those activation bars. And those activation bars actually come in handy with the summons materia as well. So you can do spells, you can do items, you can do special abilities and whatnot that allow you to do that. The abilities mostly come from different materials and your weapons as well, because once you tune into your weapon, that character has that ability from that weapon all the time. Doesn't matter which weapon they use. So it's kind of like the old D&D concept of becoming attuned with your weapon before your powers are fully unleashed with that weapon. And the characters are split up into various archetypes. Aerith is now basically a ranged attack and also a kick-ass spellcaster, which was always her main deal as spellcaster and support system. Barrett is now a long-range fighter, which he was always designed as, but he's also a one-shot heavy hitter at times as well, which is also a very important part of his overall role. Cloud is the basic sort of in-between ground, where he has a lot of the ground attacking fighting systems, and Tifa is the real standout here, where her build-up meters and her abilities to quantify more and more attack structures and whatnot and create sort of more powerful attacks is really quite a useful thing, because once you set her up with a certain magic type of materia and a elemental sort of bonus, she can literally shred so many enemies so quickly, and it really puts Cloud to shame almost at times. I was kind of shocked at the difference that was. Now, I've been talking a long time now, and I just can't stop talking about this game. There are things about this game that most people are going to love. There are a few parts of it that people are going to hate. But if you love Final Fantasy VII, play this game. You will not regret it. And for all those people that are still waiting for it, hey, it's well worth the wait. And I can't wait to see the next chapter. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. And I hope you all have some fun with Final Fantasy VII. I've left a lot of things that are still undiscovered that will come to light as people do playthroughs and whatnot of this game, including myself. So, yeah, go play it. You'll enjoy it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification, hit the like, because then I know you liked it. And, yeah, I'll catch you on the next video. Bye for now.
The hell were those things? Some kind of... I don't know. Guess I shouldn't be surprised, though. Never can tell what weird shit'll come crawling out of the scrap down here. It's those reactors. I'm telling you.
It hurt?
Wish I could say it didn't, but yeah. God, this is so embarrassing. I hate playing the damsel in distress.
It happens.
What did you do to your leg? Does it hurt?
Not nearly as much as the fuss everyone's making.
Still, I think you ought to avoid putting any...
I'm fine.
Oh.
That's enough. You're out, Jesse.
Huh? What about the mission? We already sent Biggs in, remember? Don't tell me you're thinking of calling it off.
No, we got this.
The hell you do.
If you need someone to step up, I'm your man.
Okay, so here's the thing.
I'm gonna need a raise.
Consider it done. All right, everyone, Cloud's in. The mission is on.
Go and raise some hell for me, okay?
Listen, Wedge, I need you to hang back and guard the home front.
What? But I'm in perfect health.
Which makes you the perfect choice to look after Jesse and Marlene.
Hey.
Let's get this show on the road to Mako Reactor 5. Once you got your gear in order, head to the station for the meet. Got it? This'll help you get squared away.